Well, I interviewed Paul McCartney, and he talked about writing songs with John. And then when that combination broke up, it was impossible for him to replace it. What did John, what did he miss about being with the Beatles? Was it interplay, songwriting? What was it, if anything?
Well, for John, it was like a divorce, and I think that he was feeling very good about it, as if a big weight was off him, and but at the same time, he was very proud of the group. He felt that there was not a group that would be compared to their group, and also he had an extremely high opinion about each one of them, which might be surprising. I mean, he used to say, well, they're very sort of intelligent kids, you know. The fact that they come from Liverpool, you think that, you know, you think they wouldn't understand these things. They do, you know, that sort of attitude. Always protective of them, and that's it. I don't really think he had voiced anything that he really missed about the Beatles. Maybe that was because I was the other party that he got the divorce for, you know, or whatever. But at the same time, that's a very bad thing that I said, you know, like he got a divorce for marrying me. So it sounds like, yes,
or things like that.
That would, you know, I was, I fell into the trap right away about saying, oh, does that mean that you broke up the Beatles? I didn't break up the Beatles. The Beatles were getting very independent. Each one of them were getting very independent. And John, in fact, was not the first one who wanted to leave the Beatles. Ringo one night with Maureen came to John and me and sort of said, well, he wants to leave. And also George was the next. And then John. Paul was the only one who was trying to hold the Beatles together. But then again, the other three felt that Paul was trying to hold the Beatles together as his band. They were getting to be like Paul's band, which they didn't like. You know? So there was an incredible period of unpleasantness for John. So he was in fact delighted that he was out of it. I think that in a funny sort of way, I felt the weight of the breakup, because he was communicating and having an extremely intense, stimulating exchange with three very intelligent guys, very quick guys. And now he expected all that to be replaced by me. And so our communication was very heavy, and it went very well. But at the same time, initially when we got together, that he would go to the studio and he would be playing with the other three. I had a little time off, in a way. But that was gone. You know.
Well, that had to be a heavy load to...
it was a very heavy load, yes. But also it was a challenge, you know. And also, I did understand the situation. It was like Duke of Windsor announcing to the world that I am with this woman, of course, who is not going to feel honored and make sure that I respond to his expectation.
Well, there was also a dark side of that, too. You were painted as a villain, Yoko. How did you react to that?
Well, that was something that was going around in the world, probably not just in whispers, in many loud statements, but we were sort of together, and the closeness of it. And, of course, the people around us are not going to spell it out to us. So, in a way, we were shielded and protected from that sort of street talk.
But you knew it was out there somewhere.
Of course, we were aware of it, but it didn't hurt me so much in the sense of somebody who are personally close to us saying something nasty. You know.
Then just before you started writing songs and you got involved in songwriting, did John miss the chemistry between he and Paul? What Paul explained to me, they used to sit opposite each other and watch each other.
Well, I think that was like done long time ago when they really wanted to be number one. At the time, that ambition of wanting to be number one together united them, and they really wanted to make a song together. There was that. John probably felt that he needed the commercial side of Paul, and Paul probably felt that he needed the artistic side of John. But when they became successful, and I only met them after they were successful, it was more like Paul calling John, and the others obviously, And so saying, okay, it's time to go to the studio. You got some songs, ready, And John was writing quite a lot himself.
He was writing pretty much on his own.
Pretty much on his own, yes.
What had been your pre-meeting John? What had been your perception of the Beatles? The band that you known very much about them?
I didn't know very much about them. That seems to be something that nobody can believe, and most people keep saying, well, how dare she would say such a thing? Of course she must have known, etc. Of course I knew the Beatles as a social phenomenon, just like I knew about Elvis. But I knew very little about Elvis anyway. But I read the newspapers about these long-haired kids or something.
Where were you living?
And then I think I just sort of scanned some article in Life magazine when I was here, I think. But that's the big famous article about the Beatles in Life magazine. I mean, a clever guy who made this group happen, and one of them were supposed to be very intelligent or something, and that was John.
That was John.
Yeah.
You've probably told it a lot of times, but it comes out different a lot too. How did you meet? I mean, that's such a trite question. But...
Well, as you know, that I met him when I was doing a gallery show in Indica Gallery, and it was the opening. I was very busy and nervous, and then John Dunbar brought this guy in, and they were just sort of looking around independently, and also I was married. I was more involved in my work at the time, and it wasn't.
When you did get together, he invited you into the recording process, or you must have had some insecurities about going to start making records and writing songs with one of the world's leading inventive people.
Not at all.
Never. Now you live with and eventually marry this famous person, and while you had been doing artistic work, you were certainly not a world figure.
There are several things that were sort of misinformed, to put it mildly. I mean, one is that when I met in Indica Gallery, that one I said over and over again, John said over and over again. But then after John's death, just so that John cannot complain because he's not here, a lot of people in England started saying, well, John said that when he went to Indica Gallery, he was totally drunk, he was up all night, and was unshaven, this and that, And he wasn't. I mean, I hate men who drink, and I'm very good at smelling their breath and all that. And one, he didn't have a drink, I know that. Part of me was like, well, all artists are like that, but I mean, there's a writer's side or something that was observing all that, I'm thinking, it's interesting, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you see, the thing is, John and I, in our own way, were sort of, each of us was suffering from mannerism in that old world that we lived in. And I think that for him to venture into other media like that was very interesting.
The turmoil. The turmoil seemed to be going on all the time. The drug situation, or the immigration problem here. But you both seem to be just zooming through it there.
Well, the problems came from outside, not from within, and that's the only reason why we were able to cope with them the way we did. If the problem, I think that castle can only fall from inside, and the castle was fine.
Your relationship appeared, those who had any experience at all, so intense and so genuine.
It was very intense, very genuine.
And during this period, there was, did you feel you were being criticized by the outside world at all for leading this Beatle down the path? Did you ever get that sense that people were knocking you for?
Well, definitely there was a tendency of if we did something that they didn't like, it was me, and if it was something successful, it was John.
Was there ever a chance that they were ever going to get together again? Everybody, so many people in the world were trying to put pressure on it to get together once, twice, make a record, a concert. Was there ever close to it?
Well, John was adamant that he just would not want it to repeat the past. And I don't know, maybe Paul might have felt that he wanted to get together. But on the side of John, I think he was very adamant. And at one point, when we were separated in 1974, I think, between 1973 and 1975, like 18 months or something, I think it was a marvelous chance to see if John wants to go back to the Beatles. But When they go outside, Ringo is the Beatle and George is the Beatle, and they're treated differently. And in fact, George did mention that to us. I feel much more comfortable playing with those guys because they understand me and this and that. Where here I'm treated like a backing group for Paul. And that was the kind of complaint that was expressed many times. So in the beginning, initially, when all four of them probably were much more insecure, they were sort of compromising and just uniting to make it. And then when they made it, of course, they blossomed and each one of them became the king. So it was very difficult then to unite and do something together.
For those of us in the business, we pray they didn't get back together. It would never have been the same.
Well, also, I think that John's feeling was that there was such a myth about the Beatles, and if they did get back together again, it wouldn't have been the same. But you can't have it both ways. If you're going to blame me for breaking the Beatles up, you should be thankful that, I made them into a myth rather than a crumbling group.
Have you retained relationships with the other three from time to time, or is it when business calls, or was there nothing there to retain?
Well, I think that circumstances made us understand each other a lot. It's a very complex situation. John and I were probably closer to Paul and Linda's situation more than any other couple in the world. And so we certainly understood what Paul and Linda were going through as a couple.
Is it tough being Yoko Ono?
Well, I don't know any other life, so I wouldn't know. I think that I certainly got my share of things, good or bad. But it's interesting to know that there's so many things that I don't know or I didn't know, and every day to discover it.
It seems like you carry a weight with you. You carry it well, and you go about your.
Well, it's a different kind of weight, probably, but I think that all of us are carrying some kind of weight.